One of the most prestigious producer conferences in the country is underway in Chicago. The Top Producer Seminar is the nation's largest and longest tenured agricultural business event. And this year, it's headed for its biggest turnout yet. More than 1,000 people and over 700 of the biggest producers in the country are on hand. It's also where organizers will reveal the top producer of the year. And so far, the field has been narrowed down to 3 finalists: Mike Stamp of Decatur, Michigan, Tim Richter of Lime Springs, Iowa, and Greg Halverson of North Dakota. This week, we'll profile all 3 on our road to the big announcement. We begin in Michigan with Mike Stamp.
Everything going all right? Got hung up doing what? Stuck?
For Mike Stamp, life is a blur.
It's got to go in the Amtrak file.
From outside his hometown in Decatur, Michigan, it's not hard to see the results of all that work. Drive down Main Street and you really can't miss it. In less than a decade, Mike Stamp's operation has literally exploded onto the southern Michigan scene.
Multiple bankers have laughed me out of their office. I wonder what they're thinking now.
At just 37 years old, Stamp may be early in his career, but he's learned farming 40,000 acres can give you experience in a hurry. Mike grew up on his family's farm just outside of town. They raised hogs and grain crops on a few hundred acres. After graduating, he headed for college at Iowa State University.
When I went to go back in the fall of '93, my dorm was underwater, and I didn't feel like paying out-of-state tuition to live in a trailer, basically. So I took my college tuition and bought a semi to start hauling grain.
Hauling grain by night and helping his parents by day. When hogs took a dive in the 90s, Mike got a young farmer loan from the FSA and bought the family operation.
At first we grew at 200 to 500 acres a year. Then we started growing at 1,500 to 2,000 acres a year. I met my wife about 6.5 years ago farming about 5,500 acres.
We just joke about that because either I asked the wrong questions or he misrepresented himself, because nowhere did we discuss the growth that he would take on over the next 5 years.
Today, Stamp Farms covers 40,000 acres, and he's kept a sharp eye on the agronomics of growing high-yielding crops.
We do a lot of irrigation. We have over 250 center pivots now. Building on track for another 30 or 40 next year. You know, we've taken ground that's 100, 130 bushel dryland ground and turned it into 200, 250 bushel ground, you know, with not a lot more inputs, you know, just the profitability that kind of goes with it.
Stamp Farms went from just 3 full-time employees 7 years ago to more than 70 today. In 2007, Mike bought the local elevator.
Please pull forward for a sample.
In just 4 years, Mike, who needed the storage anyway, has built capacity to more than 4 million bushels. But these bins will handle better than twice that in a year's time.
Obviously, there's a lot of big grain companies out there that made a lot of profits over the years. As we got more and more into it, we started seeing the margins and realizing, hey, this is fairly profitable.
Helping those profits? An old, rusty set of rails sitting next to the property.
We had a small siding here. We were able to start loading rail cars. Really improved our margins tremendously. And from that, you know, we've been able to go on. And now we buy direct from the manufacturers on fertility, and we're in the process of building a 75-car unit train loader for, you know, we can hit the export market if we want, or the southeast.
It's been pretty much a very wild ride.
Add to it a marriage and now 2 kids.
Decisions you make under fire are what makes or breaks a company.
And while you could say there's been a lot of fire in the last few years, so far Mike Stamp and Stamp Farms are rising to the challenge.